Honorable viewers, I welcome all of you to my YouTube channel, Department of English. Today, I would like to share with you an apology for poetry written by Sir Philip Sidney. You know that this is a literary criticism, so let's get started. The poet's superiority over the philosopher and historian. According to Sidney, the poet is superior both to the historians and to the moral philosophers. Poetry is superior to all the branches of learning. The philosopher teaches by percept, the historical by example. But both do not both. Both are therefore defective. The poet does the both. He gives percept and also presents an example. The poet is a maker. He is truly creative. Philosophy presents merely abstract percept, which cannot be understood by the general people. The philosopher teaches by percept, the historian by example, but both do not do both. Both are therefore defective. The poet does the both. He gives the percept and also presents an example. Quotation. The philosophy, the philosopher, therefore, and the historian are the which would win the goal. The one by percept, the other by example, but both, not having both, do both halt. History deals with concrete facts or example of pursue. But poetry combines both these advantages. It presents universal truths. Poetry is the earliest form of writing. Even the early writers used the fashion and manner of poets. The historians succeed most when they use the method of poets. The philosophers and the historians became popular in ancient times only if they used the manner and form of poetry. The poet is not only a giver of knowledge but also an improver and reformer of men and manners. He is the prince over all the rest. The poet combines general principles with particular example. The philosopher deals with the intellect. The poet moves the heart and soul. The philosopher teaches, but he teaches obscurely. The learned alone can understand him. He only teaches them that are already taught. But the poet can be understood even by those who are not learned. To Aristotle, poetry is more philosophical and more serious than history. It presents universal truths. Quotation. The poet with that same hand of delight doth draw the mind more effectually any other art doth. Poetry deals with universal consideration and history deals with particular. The historian deals with facts as they are. The poet deals with facts as they ought to be. The poet is liberal. The historian is rigid. Christ himself used poetic language. The highest honor must go the poet. Poetic imitation and inventions can influence human conduct. Poetry encourages and inspires men to perform brave deeds. Classic poetry is suitable for any man at any civilization. Philosophers express their opinion through concrete riddles. The philosopher teaches but teaches obscurely. He only teaches them who are already taught. The philosopher teacheth but He ticketh or teases, that means it's a whole language, ticketh obscurely. But the poet is the food for the tenderest stomachs. The poet is indeed the right popular philosopher. On the other hand, poetry is the liquid answer to the problems. The historian suffers from different type of limitations. The poet can cross the limitations of the historian. The method of the philosophers is obscure, verbose, and confusing. On the contrary, the method of the poets is simple, lucid, understandable, and comprehensible. The poet is a maker, a real creator. He is a truly creative poet. Only the poet designing to be tied to any such subjection. To Sidney, poetry was the earliest form of composition everywhere. Philosophers and historians came later than the poets. Sidney points out that even in barbarous and uncivilized countries, poetry is respected and loved. Turkey, Ireland, and Red Indians, where writing is unknown, poets are loved and respected. To Sidney, the historian deals with facts as they are. The poet deals with facts as they ought to be. The poet is liberal, the historian is rigid. Quote. The poet is philosophitarian and subordinatarian. That is to say, it is more philosophical and more studiously serious than history. The story recites the action or quarrel, council, policy, or state game as it was, but the poet beautifies it with his heart. Art, both for further teaching and more delighting. One lesson from heaven to hell is at his command, to be used in the way he likes. Quotation. The historian is bound to recite that may the poet with his imitation make his own, beautifying it both for future teaching and more delight. The poet performs the function of both the philosopher and the historian. He combines general principles with particular example. The philosopher deals with the intellect. The poet moves the heart and soul. The poet moves much more than a philosopher can. The poet is the monarch of science. Poetry is supreme in all the branches of learning, and the highest honor must go to the poet. Poetic imitation and inventions influence human conduct. No man is so much philosopher as to compare the philosopher in moving with the poet. Philosophy is an art of definition. Poetry is not a definition but the liquid answer to problems. Philosophers express feelings through concrete riddles and intellectual illusion. The poet propounds his masses through examples, pictures, and images. The poet's chief attention is to the truth, no particular incident. For the historian, there is no scope of imagination. Quotation. The philosopher showeth you the way, he informed you of the particularities as well of the tediousness of the way. The philosopher may teach us patriotism or may depict anger through his abstract formulas. but the poet gives us concrete picture of patriotism. The historian and the philosopher cannot show the working of poetic justice. Plato regarded poetry as the product of divine inspiration. Poetry is essential to feed and satisfy our love of beauty and our aesthetic sense. The historian suffers from a different limitations. Poetry adds imaginative sums to incidents and makes them available for instruction. The historian quotation. The historian scarcely giveth leisure to the moralist to say mass, but that he laden with old mouse-eaten records authorizing himself upon other histories. According to Sidney, poetry is the earliest form of composition everywhere. Philosopher and historian came later than the poets. Earliest philosophers wrote their natural philosophy in verse. The historian brought the style of writing from poets. Quotation. Poetry is of all human learning the most ancient and of most fatherly antiquity, as from whence other learning have taken their beginnings. So that's all about an apology for poetry for the timing. Thanks for your patience hearing.